All right, She Darkles, She Tincts by J. Wilburn. Charlie dashed through the house looking for Lilia Bad, the one everyone else thought was little Charlie's imaginary friend. For Charlie, it was good to have another soul in the house whose focus was fully on her. Her stepdad, well, her mother's boyfriend, Douglas Gorgo, was all right, but he worked a lot and didn't get Charlie Hattie English's sense of humor. Gorgo was a funny name. Sometimes when Charlie played with Lily, she named the monster they pretended to fight as Gorgo. Her mom, Scarlett Lynn Hatcher, said Gorgo was a Greek name and they built the world. It still made a good monster name. Her mom didn't work, at least not most of the time or for long. She. Hold on, I do need to change one. I need to change this because it doesn't work. Through the house to hide from Lilia Bad. Okay, so I'll need to fix that in what I've saved. Okay. Her mom didn't work, at least not most of the time or for long. She thought Charlie was hilarious, but Mom was always busy with something else. Every other weekend, Charlie had to stop playing with Lily long enough to pack a bag. Most weekends, her dad had to cancel the trip, so Charlie unpacked before a dinner where her mother was sullen. That was fine with Charlie, as Lily could not find her way to Charlie's dad's house. Brad English was a busy man, too. When Charlie played, he was often trapped in a faraway castle, in need of rescue from monsters like the vicious Gorgo or the moody Hatcher. Lily played along with any game Charlie wanted and sometimes came up with new games of her own. Lily was getting bolder, talking more, and getting more creative. They played hide and seek the most. First, Charlie hid under her bed. It was an easy to guess spot, but Charlie was comfortable under there. Sometimes that narrow space was a cave to hide from the Gorgo or the angry Hatcher, while Lilia Bad stood guard and checked to see if the coast was clear. Today, Lily had barely stopped counting when the chill of her presence filled the air under the bed. She found Charlie. It was an easy spot, but that was still quick. Charlie folded her arms under her chin and said, "Don't cheat. You can look, but don't use your powers to find me every time. That takes all the fun out of it." Lily gave off an uncomfortable buzz within the chill of her presence. Charlie could tell she was annoyed, maybe angry, but anger usually felt different. It was heavier. Still, Charlie didn't want to push her luck. Lily sometimes got tired of playing and left for a while. Charlie was bored and wanted her to stay. "Okay, now I count and you hide." The air warmed under the bed and Charlie knew she was alone. Even though she didn't have to, she covered her eyes before she counted to 20. By 11, she heard the mower give its first false starts. By 14, Douglas had it going and was cutting the yard in rows. Charlie crawled out with her clothes shaded with dust as soon as she voiced 20. "Ready or not, here I come." This was also silly because Lilia Bad was always ready. She tiptoed through the hall and slipped into her mom's room. Mom was still in bed, but on her phone, talking loudly. Charlie made it halfway to the walk-in closet before Mom snapped her fingers several times and waved Charlie out with her brow wrinkled. She could have sprinted for Mom's closet to check real quick, but that would have come with consequences as soon as the call was over. Charlie slinked out of the room instead. She hoped Lily wasn't in the closet or bathroom in there, or this would be a long game. She slipped into Douglas's office next. This was also off limits, but he wouldn't punish her if he found her in here. He'd just give her a talking to without any yelling or anything. He was mowing and Mom was gossiping, so she had all the time in the world. Charlie didn't need all the time in the world because the room was so small. She ran her hands over the cracked spines of shelves upon shelves of paperbacks. She had thought only libraries kept so many books before they moved in with Douglas. She opened the squeaky metal door that folded out to reveal board games too old for her and files of papers too boring for her. "No, Lily." She closed the closet door. I know I'm making unnecessary changes, but I'm going to do it anyway. She ran her fingers through the wooden spaces between the neat papers on Douglas's desk. He kept everything perfect at the corners, so the spaces were all the same, and none of the piles touched each other. Charlie knew most of the drawers were full but boring. All of them except the top left. There were some black binders standing on end in the front of that drawer, and old magazines full of naked women in the back of that drawer. That was interesting if she had the time. Today might be enough time, but she was playing hide and seek with Lily, who wasn't in this room, so Charlie slipped back out without touching the drawer. She checked the guest room and found the space underneath the bed as warm as the rest of the house. She carefully checked each corner because Lily was such a good hider when she cared about the game. When Charlie opened the guest closet, she felt the cold air in the small space that appeared to just have empty hangers and a bunch of old blankets on a high shelf. She jumped up and down and clapped her hands. Very good hiding, Lily. Now it's my turn to... The coldness wrapped around her and deepened. It could have been Lily leaving the closet, but this was something else. It was an interruption. Lily wanted something else. "What is it?" Charlie asked. The air crackled a little. She even heard a few whispered breaths. Then she felt what could have been icy fingers brushing her cheek. "I don't understand, Lily. Say it again." The air crackled once more, almost like before. Then it was two hands, as cold as ice, holding her face on both sides. "Out of the desk?" Charlie asked. The air wavered around her, but held its cold and a light pressure like a coming storm. Charlie nodded. She understood the rules of the game, but not the point. She left the guest room, and the cold air followed her like a cloud. Charlie stopped short of the office and listened to her mom talking and the mower moving through the side yard. "She'll be in there and see me." Something scratched against the wallpaper on both sides of the narrow hall. Charlie sighed, and her breath showed for a brief frosty moment. "If you say so." She entered the office like before, but went straight to the interesting drawer. She pulled it open and far enough out that it clunked and tilted down a little like it might fall. Charlie knew it wouldn't. She reached in and grabbed one of the thick magazines by the spine. Before she could pull it out, the air grew angry heavy. "What?" Charlie asked. "These are the pictures of naked women in the drawer you asked for." The air grew even heavier, and Charlie hissed from the pressure building in her head. "Okay, I'll look underneath for the ones Mom doesn't know about." Charlie didn't know about them either, but when she snaked her small hand under the magazines, she felt the hard corners of photographs. She pulled them out and turned them over in her hands. These pictures weren't as clear as the ones in the magazines, but they showed a lot more. Charlie was more interested in the feel of the photos than what they showed. All the pictures she had ever seen were mostly on phones and computers. She had never held any like this. Something popped in the closet and then clicked 3 times from the ceiling. Charlie spread them out and counted them twice. There are 9. Another click and she counted again. Still 9. The air grew heavier as she reached into the drawer again, so she reached in the drawer again. After a few seconds, stretching as far as she could under everything in there, she found and pulled out the other 2. She counted again just to be sure. Okay, now there are 11. The cold swirled around her like a breeze with nowhere else to go. Charlie frowned. If my mom knows about the naked pictures in the magazines, why would she care about 11 more? The air took on weight but not pressure. Charlie was thankful for that. Okay, where should I put them? More crackles. Why not on the little table by the side of her bed? She'll find them quicker. Isn't that the game? Nothing happened. No changes, no response. Okay, I'll do it your way. Are you sure she's gone? The cold returned heavier. Okay. Charlie slipped in the door to Mom's bedroom with 11 new pictures held behind her back. Even though Lily said Mom would be in the bathroom, Charlie had a made-up question ready just in case. Mom's voice came through the closed bathroom door where she still ranted on her phone from the toilet. Charlie ran to Douglas's dresser and opened his sock drawer. She had to think again to remember all the parts of the game Lily had explained earlier. She had it. Charlie took one sock out of the drawer and slipped it under the space at the bottom with the toe peeking out a little. Then she picked one of the pictures to slip under with the loose sock. Chill ran up her back and raised goosebumps on her arms. Well, Lily, then tell me which one. The house settled a little from the far wall. Like a dog? I don't... Oh, okay, this one. She placed the correct photo under the dresser with the sock. Charlie then stuffed the others under all the socks. Before she closed the door, she pulled the toe of a second sock out enough to pinch inside the closed dresser drawer's mouth. The toilet flushed and Charlie ran from the room before checking with Lily first. In the hallway, cold pressure joined her. I don't get the game, but I'm just glad you had fun, Lily. Can we go back to hide and seek? After hide and seek, they had a tea party with Queen Charlie Hattie English and Lady Lily Abad and an arrangement of stuffed animals. Charlie gathered the plastic tea set to put away when she sensed Lily's presence getting thinner. Is there something you want to play now, Lily? The cold came back full and stronger as Charlie listened. The mower had long ago stopped and an edger was buzzing away along the driveway. Mom had stopped talking but was snoring in the bed now. Charlie heard none of that as she listened carefully to the rules of the new game. This game was like the others in that they had to complete the task without being seen by the Gorgo or the snoring Hatcher. This game started in the basement, though. Charlie didn't like it down there, but dungeons were not meant to be liked, and the brave Sir Brad English was trapped in a tower far away, waiting for his warrior daughter to complete the quest to free her. To free him. Charlie had to dig through a number of boxes to find what Lily wanted. The basement was already chilly, but with Lily down here too, Charlie wished she had brought a sweater. Finally, she found the bundle of letters wrapped in a rubber band. She recognized her mother's name on them, but not the other name written below on each of the notes in the bundle. Charlie took them upstairs and toward the hooks in the mud room off the garage and laundry room. This part of the game was boring. No one was here to even almost catch her. But Lily had played Charlie's games all day, and if this was what Lily wanted to play, well, taking turns was part of friendship. Charlie opened the hatch for the shoe storage bench Douglas had built himself, and propped the letters against the back inside like Lily instructed. As she walked out of the kitchen, Charlie said, "Okay, now I want to draw." The machines outside had gone silent. Water hissed through the walls as Douglas washed his and Mom's car. Mom was up at least, but still in her room, finally folding some laundry. Charlie stuck her tongue out of one side of her mouth as she drew her third picture. On her left, the first page was a swirl of black around a frothy tower of burnt orange reaching out from the sides like ghost arms in the middle. Black letters over the orange read, "She Darkles." Charlie didn't know if that was the name of the drawing, but that's what Lily wanted written on it. She thought they had misspelled dark. On her right, the second picture showed a nice sunny bedroom. At the end of the bed, the shape of a girl leaned on the blankets as if praying. The crayon girl's clothes looked deflated and empty. A swatch of fuzzy brown that might have been fur or hair was where the girl's head should be. The only real indication of an actual person were the was the peach-colored bare feet that could have been sticking out from under the bed as opposed to coming from the deflated girl. Across the bed, above the deflated girl, was written, "She Tincts." Charlie wanted to spell it as thinks, but Lily told her the letters to write. Charlie's third picture, still in progress, showed a woman with long hair, flowing robes, and a crown of sorts, but no face. Around this central figure was Charlie's room, but the furniture was gone. The light blue paint peeled off the walls, and the trash cluttered the floor. Sunlight spilled white and cold through the dirty crayon windows. Charlie blinked a few times, yawned, and stretched as if just waking up. She stared at the three pictures in surprise. "Are these you, Lily?" No answer came, even though it's always a bad sign as you get toward the end of a story and I keep finding more typos. Maybe I just got tired. No answer came, though. Came through the chill of her present. Oh, come on now. No answer came, even though the chill of her presence lingered. Charlie was sure these had to be Lily. The middle one looked unfinished to her, without a face, but as she prepared to draw a smile on the faceless woman in the abandoned room that looked too much like her bedroom, the cold grew heavier. She moved her hand down to the bottom of the page. Charlie did not know the word, but she wrote the letters one by one in black until she spelled out, "She Cloisters." She moved to try to draw a smile on the faceless woman again, but the pressure grew too great and Charlie gave up. She guessed the drawing was finished after all. Charlie put her crayons away and hid the 3 pictures from her mom and mom's boyfriend. As she slid them under some old coloring books in one of her cabinets, she thought about how much this was like Douglas hiding his secret pictures. Charlie listened to the clicks and pops around the cold room and only asked, "You're sure it's on the kitchen counter?" "Okay, but you'll need to tell me the number again once I open it." Charlie walked downstairs and found Douglas's phone on the kitchen counter where Lily said it would be. She put in the code Lily told her, and it worked. Then she listened to the husky voice of the cold and dialed the number. Someone picked up on the 3rd ring, and Charlie waited like she was told. Her heart hammered like a little bird's heart. She could feel it in her neck. The thin voice of a woman said hello a couple times and then asked, "Douglas, is that you? Why are you calling? Is everything okay? Douglas." As soon as the crackle traveled through the air, Charlie ended the call and tossed the phone back on the counter. She ran for her room, feeling hot and covered in sweat, despite the cold that traveled with her. As she mounted the stairs, Douglas's phone buzzed on the counter with a deep bass note from the vibrations traveling through the cabinets. A little pea slipped out, but Charlie ran to her room and dove onto her bed without going into the bathroom. The phone finally gave up just as the door to the garage opened. Douglas took off his boots as Charlie's eyes grew heavy from departing fear. That was an exciting but scary game. She heard Mom's boyfriend mumble something to himself in a deep register as he put his shoes away, taking a little longer than usual. Charlie didn't remember falling asleep, but she snapped awake as Mom's bedroom door bounced off the wall hard enough to break something. She cussed as she descended the stairs in stomps. Charlie crawled under her covers, and the lingering chill of Lily Abad's presence made her comfortable. Mom yelled first, but the normally quiet Douglas started yelling back. That was a bad sign. That sounded too much like Mom and Dad at the end. Charlie covered her head. Dinner time came and went with no one calling her down to eat, and the argument continued as darkness closed over her windows. Her nightlight had not been plugged in yet, but Charlie wasn't interested in getting up or even eating until things got quiet again. It started to die down, but then in a clear voice, Mom said, "Show me your phone." Douglas laughed and said, "I got nothing to hide, not like you." Things were quiet and Charlie started to hope, but then Mom exploded with yelling again. Douglas shouted back, "I didn't. I don't have any idea what you're talking about." Charlie had no idea either. Adults just got angry and yelled. That's what they did. What she did know was she did not want to move again. "Lily, will you take care of me no matter what happens?" A very heavy weight of cold settled upon her bed and her chest. Charlie took it for comfort and dozed off in the cool of her best friend's presence.